I ngā mana, i ngā reo, i ngā karanga maha o te motu, tēnā koutou, o tira tēnā tātou katoa. Tuatahi mihi kawatuki tō tātanei atua nāna te timatanga te whakamutunga o ngā mea katoa, iri hau pai mariri. O tira kia ratu mai hingatu i tēnei o ngā tau marama wiki o tira i ngā rā kua pahure ake nei, e moi, e moi, e moi. Kia tātou te hunga ora, tātou e tau nei ki roto i tino o tō tātou nei kaupapa kōrero, nau mai, piki mai, hara mai, ki tēnei hōtaka e ki nei ko Thankful Thursday. Kia ora everyone, welcome to Thankful Thursday for 2022, our second one for the year, and have we got a treat for you? But firstly, I do want to acknowledge our whānau that with the ones that our loved ones that are not here anymore, and the tangihana. So we've got a few here in Rotorua. Irena, tō whānau, he mihi kaua tū tēnei ki a koe. A wonderful nurse, a wonderful friend to so many people. E te tuahine e au tō moi. Also, our sincere prayers and aroha go out to our whānau in Ngāti Porou, o tira East Coast, Gisborne, especially over the last couple of months, and the weather and the floodings, and it's the uncertainty around the cyclone yesterday, Cyclone Philly. Our hearts and our prayers go towards every single whānau out there. I know that's hard on top of COVID, so he mihi tēnei kia koutou o Ngāti Porou, o tira koutou te haukanga kei tērā kokona, he mihi aroha tēnei kia koutou. And speaking of the coastie, there's one coastie girl that came to mind today, and she's going to be joining me today on our kaupapa korero. She doesn't need an introduction. She's been on our TV screens more times than Oprah Winfrey. She has interviewed some of the most amazing people in her lifespan, and she continues to do awesome mahi in the journalism world. E te whānau, he mihi tēnei ki tō tātanei tuahine, so I'll bring her up right now. Tēnā koe, Irena. Ngā mihi kia koe te tuahine, nau mai piki mai ki tino o tō tātanei kaupapa kōrero. Thank you for joining us tonight. And I know that you are such a busy lady, but i te tuatahi, tukuna mai, ko wai koe no he koe. Oh, hang on, I can't hear you, sorry. No, I still can't hear you. Nope, still can't hear you. I know that you're off mute because is there a Bluetooth on or something? See, this is what happens, whānau, when you go live. You don't have a TV producer that can sort out your sound for you. And it was working quite perfectly before.
Stop. Mic
There we
cam.
go, we can hear you.
Ka pai.
Ai, ka pai, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe hoa, ngā mihi nui ki a koe, koutou hoki. Ko wai au ko Irena Smith, taku ingoa, no Ngāti Porou. Engari e nuhana ki te whanganui a tana I tēnei wā. E mahi ana hei hekere tari me ki mō te minita pini hinare. Whai muri I te kauma whitu tau a hau e mahi ana he kairi poata mō te karere, mō whakaata Māori hoki. So it's been a year now since I left the journalism world, a 17-year career as a Māori reporter, and have been a press secretary for Minister Hinari for the past year, and moved from Auckland down here to Pōneke for that role. So a lot of change. And yes, I'm also a new mama of almost 6 weeks. So that's probably, like, out of all the jobs I've had, that's the biggie and most challenging at the moment. But yeah.
Oh, rawe. Okay, before we actually get started, I need to talk about how are your whānau in the East Coast? Since have you heard from them in regards to the cyclone and stuff?
I actually just returned from Tokomaru Bay on Monday, because my parents live in Tokomaru Bay, and that's obviously where I'm from, and all my whānau are there. And when I heard and saw what had happened, it was just devastating, and ringing my mum and dad every hour and seeing how they are and making sure that they had evacuated safely, but just really hearing, like, my mum's anxiety, on the phone, and the fact that, I could tell that it was quite a traumatic event for them. Just, last minute seeing the river rise so high, that was, because they live right next to the river, the house, maybe it was about 3 or 4 meters, and then it just washed the whole bank away. My dad lost 2 wood sheds, just washed away with the bank down the river, and everything that was in there, a lot of tools, and his lawnmower, his brand new lawnmower, which he was not pleased about.
Oh, I wouldn't be either.
Yeah. A horse float, things that were just, in the paddock nearby, that just all washed away with the bank.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were really feeling ohorere, I guess, and in the middle of the night, having to just evacuate like that. And they tried to get out of Toko, but by that stage they couldn't even leave Toko. The water was too high to get out off the main road, so they just went to the nearest house, the neighbour's house that was a bit higher, and stayed there for the night and had little sleep and things like that. But it's just traumatic for the whole community, just to see the devastation. And Tokomaru Bay, there's not a lot to it, but and it's a beautiful place. And so to see it, I guess, all paru and all the bloody river and the debris and the main road that washed away. Yeah, that kind of stuff is just things that you'd never really think you'd see in our lifetime. And especially when they talk about Cyclone Bola and how bad that was. And then you've got the nannies that were around then saying this was like 10 times worse than that.
Yeah.
That tells you something. But Mum and Dad are fine. The house is still standing, thank God. And yeah, they're just sort of getting through it. But certainly the last couple of nights have also been quite scary for them. And they evacuated voluntarily, just because it's the fear of the unknown. Just now, every time it rains, it's almost like, oh, what's going to happen? Is it, how high is the river going to get? And is it going to get our house this time? And yeah, so I feel really sad for them. And so that's why we went home and took my baby home to see his koro for the first time, and get some, spread some joy to mum and dad and nanny and papa, and they really loved that. So yeah.
Oh, nice. So good to hear. And especially being hit a few times now in a matter of months, how hard that would have been for you just to know that, being hit again with the cyclone. And then you see the stories and the devastations that Tonga went through with their cyclones and tsunamis and stuff that hit them. And it's around the whole world, Australia, around some of these things, events that take place, and you just feel real aroha for our whānau that are in those areas, especially our Māori whānau that were in Queensland during that time of the floodings and stuff, and then fires. And, there's a whole heap of things that we should be thankful for. And one of those things is that, that, whānau are still okay. It has hit townships financially with materials and stuff like that. But then you think about, life saved over these times. It's really nice to hear. And I'm glad that your parents took the initiative and went to higher ground, just to be with each other, and especially for their new mokopuna. I bet that was on their mind all the time during that time. And I bet you were more worried than they were probably, of what was happening. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, knowing that, you probably haven't had enough sleep, because you've been waiting to hear from your parents. But he mihi tēnā kia koe. All right, let's head into this kaupapa. So we first met each other back in 2002. You graduated from the Waiariki journalism course back in, what, 2003?
Yeah, yeah.
So did you head from, so that was the only, so just to let everyone know, that was the only Māori journalism course in the whole country. And it was for radio and print. And so after you graduated, well, in 2003, did you go straight to TVNZ, or did you go somewhere else before then?
No, pretty much. I after I had done the work experience at Te Kariri and we graduated, I contacted them just to let them know that I had graduated and that I was basically ready to start. I'm
That's
ready
right.
when you are, whaingata. And yeah, but I guess at that stage there weren't any positions available, so I had to go back to Tokomaru Bay and really just sort of wait around for a phone call, which I was confident would come, just a matter of when. And a few months went by, I was starting to get a bit worried. Actually jumped on the dole for a bit there. My father was looking at me and saying, well, you might have to get a broom and come out sharing with me, and you'll be my top browsie. I'm like, no,
I
come
didn't
on,
study 2 years
please.
for this.
And yeah, that's when the phone call came. I don't know. I think around about 3 months while I was sort of back home, and to say that there was a position had come available, and they wanted me to go up there for an interview first. And so yeah, I was fortunate, as well as persistent, I guess, with them.
Yeah.
And got the job, thankfully, after the interview, and yeah, made the big move to Auckland not
Oh,
long after that. So
nice.
yeah, it all was sort of happened pretty quickly after
So you didn't have
graduating.
to get that broom out after all.
No, thankfully.
Oh, that's good. So we're heading back into it again. What got you into journalism? What drove you to become a journalist?
um, I guess just te reo Māori was a big part of my life. Obviously, in my first language, growing up from a young age. My mother started kohanga reo down in Southland and Mataura, where I lived. And when I was born in Invercargill, and a lot of people are surprised about that. There wasn't a lot of Māori around, or places to learn kohanga, things like that. So my mum started her own in my nan's house for all the cousins. And so te reo Māori's been that big drive, I guess, and so that on top of I guess watching Te Karere growing up, and as everyone did, was the only thing, and you watched it every day with your parents and your grandparents. Um, and as I said to my mum, tells me, watching Tini Molyneux and wanting to be like her when I grow up, and so I think it was from an early age I sort of had an idea that that's what I wanted to do. It was just a matter of how I paved my way there. And the path that I was able to take to get there, and so yeah, I think it's just about more so about using my language, and then knowing and I guess honing in on my communication skills. And I was able to identify that that was something wasn't too bad at school. Speeches, manu korero, all those types of things sort of helped to build those skills, and then
Nice.
found that that's probably something that I could get into.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sort of just happened at school, and then took the right classes and journalism school. It all sort of just fell into place really. But yeah, certainly te reo Māori, and continuing to fulfil those teachings of my mother and my grandparents, and ensuring that our reo thrives and survives in an environment that seemed pretty fun.
Yeah, definitely. Who were some of your mentors other than Tini Molyneux, of course you just said, but there must have been over the 17 years of being a journalist, in a cutthroat world basically, and on a mainstream setting doing te reo Māori. Then there would have been some influential people in your life on a daily that you really looked up to, as a journalist. Who were they? Well, name of one, at least one other, and why?
I guess other Maori journalists mainly, just because I guess it was, as you said, Wairiki was print and radio. So in order for me to gain the skills in television, you basically had to be in it in television, and learning on the spot, learning from others, and just watching. And so I guess I really honed in on who the other, and I guess I was lucky. I was young, and there were a lot of experienced Māori journalists at Te Karere when I started, the Henerangi Goodmans, and Dean Nathan, and Joe Glenn. They were all sort of there when I started. So it's just lucky to have people like that who'd been doing it for many years already. Rerea Tamakiha, he was a big sort of help in terms of crafting stories. He had a real knack around how the way you told a story in television. Obviously, it's very different from radio and print in that the pictures tell the story. And so crafting those pictures along with sound, and then your voiceover, I guess, is just the thing that links those things together. But there's a certain way of doing all that, and he was a master at it. So he was really helpful, and really patient around teaching. And but as I say, like when I started, and the people like Whaingata who were heading those places, and Marty Stafford, who was my first producer, who gave me the job. So yeah, just and then sort of to the younger generation, of Tina Wycliffe, and people like that who were who I sort of buddied up with, and learned everything I could at the time. And then you basically just got to take from it what you can, make it yours, and you learn along the way. You don't always get it right, and it's, you know, those kind of people that actually told you when maybe, you know, it could have been different, or you could do things differently to make it better. And having that kind of criticism is important as well when you're sort of just learning, and new to the craft. But yeah,
Yeah.
I guess I was a fast learner, so yeah, yeah, I was able to pick it
I
up and
was,
run with it.
yeah, I was always amazed at the older ones, like the ones you mentioned, that used to be the journalist, the editor, the producer, the film crew. You know, they did it all in one, and they still had to produce um, that bracket for Te Karere to go live and stuff. And I was, you know, when I first heard what they were doing, I was thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, I can't do all of that all at once. I can barely stand in front of the camera to do
Yeah,
my reading of my script or stuff, and then I do everything." But you know, I take my hat off to these ones that actually did
like
that.
Hirani Henare, he was one of the
Yeah,
first to like film his own stories up north, and then in those days you didn't have internet and all of that, so he would have to drive his tape to the airport, or and then it would get flown from up north somewhere down to Auckland, and then a taxi would drive it from the airport into the studio for it to get there in time for it to go to air at, you know, whatever time Te Karere was on at
wow.
that time. It was quite early in the day though, so you know, it was a big
Yeah.
feat. Mm.
Yeah, it's amazing, and you know, I really looked up to people like that, and like for me as a journalist, I looked up to people like Martin Rakuraku and yeah, Hinarangi Goodman and them, you know, and Tini Molyneux. They paved the way for us basically to ensure that we were able to get into um, to share our stories. And I remember very young, I was very young at the time, that the main reason for my story was because I wanted to be like, I wanted to share the positivity around our Māori stories because we had so many negative ones that there wasn't enough positive ones. And so I take my hat off to all our Māori journalists that have paved the way. Um, while we're talking about TVNZ and stuff, um, I did want to say a mihi to both you and Anzac for your time both together. Our mate Anzac, who passed away a few years ago now, and I was just talking to Ave a couple of weeks ago, and we were just reminiscing about the, you know, the mahi and stuff of Anzac and stuff. So I just wanted to say that, like, the, you know, your brother Anzac, and any time that I was in Auckland or you fellas were down here in Rotorua, it was really nice to catch up with both of you during that time. And so, yeah, I thought it'd be quite fitting that we acknowledge him in this segment as well. But you both have done a tremendous job with Te Karere, and I know that there's a whole heap of little boys and little girls that are wanting to be journalists because they saw Auntie Irena and Uncle Anzac on that TV screen every afternoon doing their thing. One of the other things I wanted to ask you was your very first time hosting, or you know, doing the thing from Scotty. How did you feel about doing your very first one and hosting the whole Te Karere segment by yourself? Sorry, girl, can't hear you properly. Can you just? Sorry, yeah, now we can't hear you. Yep.
Hear me now?
All right, kapai.
Presenting. That was. very nerve-wracking. It's not something that I wanted to do, or I ever thought I would even try and do, because I was very staunch about that, the fact that I was a journalist and I'm a reporter and that's my job, and I'm out in the field getting the stories, meeting the people, and being in the studio, that wasn't really sort of my thing. But at the time, I think Scotty was off, and there wasn't very many others there, and yeah, the producer at the time, Roihana Nuri, he was like, "Well, you're up." Basically, if we'll give you a shot, and so that was that. So we got all dressed up and makeup, and you're on air, and yeah, you certainly realised, it wasn't an easy role. People might think you're just reading the audio cue, but just that alone is, takes a bit of practice, and
Yeah, I
the
bet.
timing of it, and having someone in your ear constantly. And but once I did it a couple of times, I started to get the hang of it, and had a few more goes after that. So that was
Oh, nice.
lucky, and realized it was actually a good experience for me, and I gained a lot of new skills by doing that, and I guess a bit more confidence in myself and my ability. The fact that I could do it, and do it well, and had a lot of people who watched Te Karere. They already knew who I was, so it wasn't a big sort of transition for them, for the audience. So it became a sort of natural sort of thing. So those it was cool, and I'm glad I had that opportunity to fill in for the main
You
man.
were fantastic at it. I'm just saying, and if Scotty had to go away again, I'm sure that he could ring you up and you could go back, even as a mama. But you've done many stories covering Olympics to presidents and stuff like that. What would have been your most memorable interview or story that you had ever done?
Wow, that's a hard one. Um, you know what? I guess just you kind of come back to home. When you think about why you're doing it and who you're doing it for, and your whānau and your upbringing and your culture and your values. And so I guess just interviewing my papa, several times, about on Anzac Day, most especially Anzac Days, Waikaroa Nōreihania. He was the perfect sort of, when you interview someone, you sort of got an idea in your head as a reporter about what you want them to say, but you sometimes you get it, sometimes it takes a little bit of probing, but he was the kind of guy that you could just ask him one question and he'd give you gold. And just his there's just, I guess, special times to, as a mokopuna, to be interviewing your karaua, about the war and what it meant to him, and what Anzac Day meant to him, and his friends who are no longer with him now, and especially, I guess, when a lot of the soldiers started to pass away, and it became, he was sort of almost the last man standing, and it's quite sad in a way, but at the same time, you felt immensely proud, to have him still with us and be able to interview him. And so I guess, I don't know if that's a bit biased, but
I know, and that's
that's
perfect.
probably, yeah.
That's the answer that I thought you would say anyway. What would have been close to home, and you just hit it on the. I remember that other story you did of that queer making her rewana bread.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that, that I still remember that one. I think that was a nice, news story, close to home, relatable, and like the interviews with your papa and your korero, the relatable stories. People want to hear those sort of stories. Well, I know I did, I really love those close to home stories that you fellas used to make. And so, yeah, good on you. I think that's a fantastic one. So you finished up after 17 years within that journalism round, and you went to the other big smoke, from one big smoke to another big smoke, from the east coast to from the big smoke from Tāmaki all the way down to Poneke, and you are now the, is it press secretary
Mm-hmm.
for Penny Henare?
Yep.
And for Minister, the Honourable Penny Henare, and we're seeing him in the news lately in regards to some
Mm.
of the ministerial things going over to Ukraine and stuff like that. But um, how's it been going for you? It's a year now that you have been with him, and how's the mahi going? How different and how awesome is it to be in that position?
Well, I must say it's been a huge transition for me. I guess a bit of a culture shock in a way, because every day I went to work and I spoke Maori and was around my Maori colleagues, and it was quite a camaraderie that you had. And I guess because had been doing it for so long, you knew what you were doing. You knew, yeah, I guess it was quite, became quite a natural sort of job that you did every day, to something quite new and very different. And, in a place like the Beehive, which, isn't very Māori, you know, as I'm working for a Māori minister, but yeah, it's not a Māori environment, I guess you could say. And the people and the higher officers have certain protocols, that you must follow. So yeah, just really sort of getting outside of my comfort zone quite a bit, and the transition from being, Irena Smith te karere,
Yeah.
to being, I guess, in the background for someone, and sort of doing the talking to my mates, the reporters, and organizing interviews for the minister with them. And I guess it came in handy, my knowledge of what a story is, and what's going to hit the headlines, and what my former colleagues were going to do if about a story or a PR, and whether or not they would pick that up and run with it or not, and how you had to sell it to them, and what they wanted to hear in order for them to do a story, and what they needed from the minister. And so, yeah, I mean, it all came about because the minister had been looking for someone for quite some time. And maybe sort of heard that I was, might have been looking for a new opportunity, and came to see me about the role. So yeah, it's been quite a cool sort of working relationship with the minister. He's our age, so it's cool that um, he's relatable, and he's quite down to earth, and very Māori. And so, te reo Māori is still a big part of our day, and we speak Māori to each other. And so that's cool. But certainly, yeah, it's a very different role, being in the background, arranging the press for someone, to being in the front. And so part of the role, I've had to travel with him around the country. Man, we did so much traveling with COVID and him being the Associate Health Minister. So we went to many hui, many marae, from Taitokera right down to Murihiku. And funny story, every place we go to, the kaumata will be doing their mihi, korero on the marae, and, kia ora tēnā koe te minita, and, look around and go, oh, Irena, oh, kia ora, Irena, tēnā koe, good pēa. And start doing this big mahi, oh, rawe tō mahi e te karere, or, telling us how much they miss me, being on te karere, and then they come up to me afterwards and give me a big hug and kiss and, talk to me about, their time watching te karere and how they, miss seeing my face on there. And so it became a thing everywhere we went to, the kaumatu would sort of recognise me and oh, are you here? Oh, you're doing a story on Penny? I said, no, Mata, I work for him now on his study. Oh, that's why we haven't seen you on Te Karere. I said, yes. It became quite a funny thing everywhere we went.
Yeah. Well, you were in their house
Well,
for 17 years. So,
I guess I didn't realise just how much, I had become a household name, I guess, and that people had been, watching and they don't just watch, especially our pakeke, they actually feel like um, they're invested, in you and in your life and your career and the stories that you've done and your reo and, um, so it was really warming to go around the country with the minister, but also have that one-on-one time with different communities, and them sharing with me, that they just loved, that time while I was on there. So that was really humbling. So yeah, I guess that was part of the transition, just going around and telling everyone, no, I'm not a reporter anymore, Matua. I work for Penny Hinari now. So they're like, oh. So it's taken a bit for everyone to click on that I'm no longer on the show.
Wow, yeah, it's been a year.
Yeah.
So they just realized after a year, that's awesome. Basically, you could go away for a year and people didn't realize that you weren't working for them again.
No, they just
So,
where have you been? Like, we haven't seen you on there for a long time. Oh, Matua, because I left about 6 months ago now.
yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, and saying that too, so Te Karere just celebrated what, 30 years, was it?
35 years.
35 years.
I think
And
it's
how was that?
35, yeah.
Did you go to it?
No. I guess with COVID,
Oh, yes, that's right, definitely.
yeah, and everything, they weren't able to have sort of a large celebration. But hey, the year's not over yet, so
So true. Yeah,
I've been talking to some of my, ex-colleagues about having some kind of get together. At some stage, it would be nice. But yeah, that's a really proud, feat for any Maori show, but especially Te Karere, because it's close to a lot
definitely.
of people's hearts, I think.
Yeah,
And it's been around for so long, and I think people really probably didn't appreciate how long it's been around and the things that it's achieved in terms of putting the te reo Māori in the lounges and the sitting rooms of many whānau Māori and non-Māori, and mostly it's the non-Māori that really sort of remember and really appreciate sometimes when you're out and about. It's like the taxi drivers, and they might just have it on Channel 1 and they've heard Te Karere on, and so they remember it, and they know the show, and they sort of, oh yes, I watch Te Karere, and lots of people who watch it with the captions in the early
yes,
morning,
yeah,
the Pākehā translations. So it's really, it's done a lot for the language, and told many Māori stories and stories that would have never seen the light of day. And as Derek Fox says, it's about telling Māori stories rather than telling stories in te reo Māori.
yeah.
It's a really big difference. So I'm so proud that I was part of the team, and that they're still going strong.
I'm glad that, and I always say that it's we contribute to the bigger picture, not only in regards to telling our stories our way, but also about contributing to the narratives that belong to Māori and being a active participant in the survival of our reo. And that to me is a huge stepping stone that I can see, because no doubt about it, over your 17 years, you have been an influence not only to people watching you on the screen, but for our reo. And the reo has definitely, like you said, where you have your Pākehā whānau or colleagues that are watching the early morning 6 o'clock version, watching the captions and stuff. Um, and people take an interest in that, and seeing that our Te Reo Māori courses are full to capacity because of the impact that you and a few others have done over the span of so many years. So, congratulations for even being that far into supporting our reo so that it survives for many, many, many more years to come. And yeah, no, I just wanted to say that you definitely have done your due course of 17 years very well for Te Karere and
I'm
Pōngai
just
Māori. So
thinking.
congratulations.
It might be 40 years actually of Te Karere.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. I remember seeing it on the thing, but I was like, And before we finish up, I told you it's just going to be going on, but we've already done 40 minutes. But before we finish, so you finished Te Karere, doing tamahi for Penny Hinare, and then you got this new job that you've got looking after our beautiful taonga. So how is our beautiful Pipi?
Oh, he is thriving, kei tino ora ia. He is growing at a faster pace that maybe most young babies are supposed to grow at. About a pound a week he's been putting on, thanks to Mama's super miraka.
Te wai ui,
Te wai
tēnō
ui.
rawe.
So yeah, it's just I guess I might have been more of a late bloomer, or starter when it comes to motherhood. I'm 39 this year, so
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So I'm glad that I've been able to do it. And to have my son is just it's a beautiful feeling, and I guess it's the joy that he brings, not only me and his dad, but our whole whānau. And we're talking wider whānau and friends, and we've just had so much love and aroha come from everyone around him. So it's been such a beautiful feeling. And pregnancy was a breeze. Thankfully, there was no complications, and
Oh,
a very speedy birth.
that's good.
Or about 5 hours from my waters breaking to him arriving, which is
Wow.
considered pretty pretty fast in birth stories according to the midwives. And yeah, so 6 weeks now of having him, and I guess learning along the way. I'm quite an outgoing person generally, and I've always been someone who's just used to being out and about and working basically since I left Wairiki to going on maternity leave. I really haven't, stopped. So it's taken a bit for me to realize and to really stop and realize that it's okay, and that this is what it takes to be a mama, and it's a lot of just staying at home and on the couch maybe all day. Sometimes you get time to shower and sometimes you don't, and
And I don't know who ever puts that sort of picture in people's mind. You know what I
but
really loved
hey,
watching too was that Meet the Māori midwives and how they used to go to the houses and stuff like that. It so reminded me of you, like just talking now about, if a Māori midwife had gone to do a TV program with you and your Pepe, oh my gosh, I think the ratings would have went over the roof. You know, it would have been like way out there. But you're so right. You know, people take not only mamahood to a next level, but just that that sense of being a mama and a new mama. Um, you know, it's a beautiful taonga to see, and I can tell, although you are tired and and stuff like that, you sound like you are just such a proud mama, um, and of 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 our new Pepe, of course, but also just proud to be part of the mummy club, I suppose, and with the rest of the hundreds and thousands of Maori that are first time mamas. But 6 weeks did you say?
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, six
six
weeks
weeks.
on Saturday. So we had our last midwife visit today, where they come and they weigh him, and he's over 500 grams. So I don't know what that is in kgs, but we're getting up there.
Over 500 grams.
Yep.
Isn't that a block of butter or something?
Well, a pound. Yeah, he was putting on a pound a week, basically.
Oh wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
he's put on. He was 8 pound 3 ounces when he was born. So
Wow.
we're getting up there. We're probably about, I don't know, 6 kgs by now or something like that. He's pretty heavy. Yeah.
Oh, that's so
So
nice. Oh,
so cute.
congratulations. Congratulations. And I can't wait to see both you and baby and the rest of the whānau, um, either when you're back here in Rotorua or when I'm down in Pōneke, which I think I'm down there very shortly. I was down there a few weeks ago too, and I forgot all about that. You were down there, sorry. But in saying that, um, yeah, that's so cool. Anyway, Kare, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I've got just some funny questions to ask you,
Hmm.
just to wrap up the korero. Do you like swimming in the sea or the lake? That's a dumb question, isn't it? Yeah, I thought so. Fry bread or rewana?
Mm, fried bread.
Me too. Um, chocolate or ice cream?
Mm, chocolate.
Yeah, you know
Not
what?
really a
I
cream
say both.
fan. Mm.
I say both. You can have chocolate and the ice cream, so choc tip, whatever they call it. I can have both. Y-
Magnums.
Magnums, yes.
Mm.
That is so right. Well, ngā mihi nui. As always, whānau, before we wrap up a show, we just highlight or tautoko a small business. And tonight's small business that we are supporting is Kai Cafe here in Rotorua. So this is, oh, hey, I better take your thing off the screen there, Kare.
I've been there. I've been
You've
there.
been you've been there, yeah. And so Paula and the team do up some amazing kai for whānau. So if you're ever in Rotorua, feel free to come down to Kai Cafe in Rotorua on Fenton Street and order you a power pocket or a power pie
Yes.
or hangi or whatever tickles your fancy. And that is there for you. And also, they are coming onto the show back in July to have a korero about some of the stuff of being a Māori business owner. So that's an awesome kaupapa to have. Also, last week's winners um, were, let's have a look. So last week winners, the one from Aotearoa was, where are we? Did it come up? Did it come up? No. Oh, there we go. So for Aotearoa, you have one aku, you have one of the goodie packs that's coming out to you. And the other one for outside of Aotearoa is going to our whanaunga or one of our viewers over in Tasmania. So Tamika, you'll get a message from me also in regards to winning our goodie pack that we will send out to you um, later on this week. It might be Tuesday because I forgot it was Easter tomorrow, so nothing's open. Okay, but we've got the goodie packs there for you to hand over. Nō reira, tātou mā ngā mihi nui kia tātou katoa. Thank you very much again, Irena, for joining me tonight. And we wish you all the best in everything that you do as a mama, as a press secretary for Pēni Hinare, to being an awesome hoa to your tāne. He mihi tēnei ki a koe me tō whānau hoki. Ahakoa te taumahatanga o tēnei mea ki Ngāti Porou, kia kaha koutou katoa i roto i te manaakitanga o tō tatanei kaihanga. So a huge mihi to all of you and your whānau, Irena. So all our whānau, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Join us next week, same time, same place, with a different person, but no doubt another amazing wahine to come to our forefront. Nō reira, koutou mā nohora mai, o tira, noho haumaru, pōmari e koutou. Ka kite, Irena.